is the Vatican keeping secret?
For the entire time that they've existed, they've collected manuscripts and relics and items from either campaigns or crusades, not only for their own research and to support their ideas, but also to prevent anything coming out. Because they need to control the information around biblical issues and the biblical dogma, they can't allow alternative views to become public, become disseminated.
What kind of things exactly are you talking about?
In terms of documentation, they've got 52 miles of shelving of books and manuscripts alone. So that will be everything from early first century fragments to potentially entire alternative gospels.
And why would that be damaging to the Catholic Church?
Because there's a potential for alternative views to emerge. There were lots of different books originally that were set to go in the Bible, and it was only through a process of politics mainly that the final books were chosen. There are also ideas that there's a book of Q that academics have termed a book that would have been the source material for the main Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, because the main Gospels were written long after the time of Christ. So if they've got something like a book of Q, that would undermine everything else.
Okay, so in this video, there are no hard facts. This is just my opinion based on the evidence of logic. Now, the evidence of logic to which I'm speaking of is the fact that it was the Catholic Church that collected data, collected information, and does not allow people to go in there. Well, actually, we know that part is facts. We know that part is actually facts, that they collect artifacts, collect writings, and they, for centuries, have not allowed anyone other than certain people to go in and view some of the artifacts to which they claim that they have and that they do have. Like the writings of Eusebius of Caesarea and his accounting of the battle between Constantine and Maxentius, and then his accounts for what was going on, him being ascribed for the Council of Nicaea, and then other things of that nature. Speculatively, I think that they have the Library of Alexandria. Now, for those of you who don't know what the Library of Alexandria is, I'll give you a brief explanation of what it is. So, at the time frame of the Ptolemies, when they made Alexandria their capital, I think it's Ptolemy the Fourth, made Alexandria, Egypt, his capital for his portion of the split of the Greek Empire, and he created this huge library. Any books that came into Alexandria were seized, copied, and then returned back to the person who brought the book in. So, according to legend and history, this library was holding knowledge of the entire world. It held knowledge from as far east as China and as far west as the Iberian Peninsula, and Morocco, and just all around, just knowledge. And this library supposedly was burned by one of the popes, I think Leo the 10th, I believe. I'm probably wrong, but one of those popes supposedly burned the library because of all the, not just scientific knowledge, but all the esoteric knowledge and everything that was in this library. I don't believe that they burned that library. I believe they burned the building. But I believe, and this is just belief because I have zero proof of it, that underneath the Vatican, in the Vatican real library, so you can go to the Vatican, go to this little fake Vatican library, little museum library. You can go to the little fake one as a tourist on the backside of the Vatican. But it takes about 7 to 10 years to get a response if you submit for scholastic entry into the actual Vatican library. And then when you do, you're only allowed to read or look at whatever they say, and you're guarded the entire time, and you can't go anywhere else in the library and just like, oh, well, let me look at this and let me look at that. It doesn't work that way. Trust me. So the fact that they keep this information hidden does dictate that what the gentleman said in the video, they're trying to hide something. They know that if all that information was released, that it would tear down the whole religious system. And I don't think it'll just tear down the Christian religious system. It'll tear down the Jewish, the Islamic, the Buddhist, the Indus. Like, all religious systems will be torn down, because it would reverberate such a great doubt about religions around the world that billions of people will turn away from all religions totally, and not just the one. But it will certainly crush every version of Christian religion. Because what the guy's talking about as far as the QLM, which he refers to as the Q. So there is theorized that there's a book called the QLM, and some think that the Gospel of Thomas is the QLM because of how many things in the Gospel of Thomas you find in the Gospel of Mark. And since Mark is the oldest piece of writing that they have, because they don't have a full copy of Mark, but that the QLM, the Gospel of Thomas, was used to complete the narratives of Mark, and then Mark was used to create the narrative of Matthew, Luke, and John. Now, the thing about the QLM is that it is not written in a story format, so it doesn't have the narrative flow. It is a book of quotations that are attributed to Jesus. And although some are very similar, they are very different. If you want more about the Gospel of Thomas, go to my YouTube page for Coach Renz, and you will see go to the playlist, and we went through each saying of the Gospel of Thomas. So you can see that there on my YouTube page. But anyway, the QLM is supposedly this book that was used to complete the other Gospels, but the QLM had things in it that the church would not benefit from. This is why they think the Gospel of Thomas could be such a book, because the Gospel of Thomas at one point says that men and women are equal, but then the last saying 114, says that he's going to convert Mary into a man so that she can be acceptable to go into heaven, which is an old teaching that since man was created first, that man is closer to God, to the perfection of God, and since woman was created out of a man's rib, she is inferior. So that's how that patriarchy works, and that Jesus is going to make Mary just like you men, closer to God, and so he's going to take her through into the trans world, I guess, or some shit like that. But that's why, so the Gospel of Thomas has its issues as well. But it is very good. It does have good esoteric information in it. Like, the Pharisees and the Sadducees are like dogs that sit in front of the trough and do not eat, but yet they also don't let the cattle eat. So the information, they got the information. They don't consume it, neither do they allow everybody else to consume it, that they've blinded everybody. So many think that the QLM is the Gospel of Thomas, but we don't have any facts about that because they won't allow us in that library. I know this sounds wrong to most people. I would love for somebody to conquer the Vatican and release all the information from the Vatican. Like, if I conquered Italy, the first thing I would do is release all the information from the Vatican library, so that all the world scholars can come and research it and look at it and put out that information. I do not believe that information should be hidden. Information should not be hidden. I think that people should have the choice to be able to choose what they want to believe and what they don't want to believe. But that's just me. Some little guy who thinks that everybody should have an equal opportunity to prove how unequal they are. That's just me. Anyway, so y'all have a great day. And always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibration.